I am your host, Hannah Hazer. Welcome back to Faithfully Free, Truthfully Me. Today I have one of my very best friends, Lindsie. On today's episode, our episode today is why it's so important to have a strong relationship with the Lord in today's society. I feel like a lot of us kind of struggle to find God, and a lot of people are saying Gen Z is like too far gone. So we just kind of wanted to uncover why people say that. Welcome to Faithfully Free, Truthfully Me. I have two questions that I ask all of my guests before we kind of get this started. So the first one is, what does faithfully free, truthfully me mean to you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Lindsie, by the way. I know Hannah already introduced myself, but I just thought I'd say my name again. I would say I would like to divide that up into two sections. I'll start with faithfully free. What I think faithfully free means is it gives you the autonomy to choose your own faith and choose which direction or navigation that you want to go into discovering your own faith. And truthfully, me means you have honesty within yourself to discover your own faith, and you're really open within yourself and trying to find your faith.
And what do you hope people take away from this episode?
I hope people can take away from this episode that finding your faith isn't an easy journey. There's going to be lots of trials and tribulations and bumps along the road, but it's up to you to ultimately choose how you want to deal with those trials and tribulations. Um, it's going to be not easy, but if you can have a good support system and have honesty with yourself about where you want to be and where you want to end up with your faith, you will discover your faith in due time. But you just got to trust the process.
Welcome to another week of Faithfully Free, Truthfully Me. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast again today. I am so happy you're here, even though you're a little under the weather. I know my last guest was under the weather too, so I hope this isn't like a trend for the Faithfully Free, Truthfully Me crew, but we're hanging in there. We're getting there. This was supposed to be the fourth episode, but I ended up deleting the second episode. So last episode was our second, and then this is the third. So I'll have the Finding Patience in Our Daily Lives out sooner rather than later, but I wanted to redo it and kind of give you guys more in that episode just because I believe it's a topic that a lot of us struggle with, and I know patience has been really heavy on my heart. So I want to kind of give you guys more with that than you guys got in that episode. So the first question I have for you is, why do people think Gen Z is too far gone and cannot be saved by the Lord?
I think that would be that Gen Z kind of has the misconstrued connotation that they're just a bunch of reckless kids. They don't know what they're doing with themselves. And it's kind of just like one of those things where um, Gen Z is just has this label on them that they're just these terrible kids. And I feel like you can't just put a you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't say, "Oh, this kid's a Gen Z. They're gonna act this way or the other." You really have to be open and really just be accepting of the fact that they might still want to figure out their faith and might have some questions for somebody that's older than them. So I feel like as an adult, you have to be really open minded with the Gen Z population and realize, hey, they might just have some questions, and you need to be honest with yourself and say, hey, I'm willing to help you out if you need it.
So I heard this phrase a few weeks ago, and I thought it kind of resonated with what we were talking about today, so I wanted to share it with you all. It says, refresh others, and you too will be refreshed. If we refresh our other people's minds with God's word, they will be more willing to get to know Him and speak His truth as they begin to walk their new life with Jesus Christ. And in this verse from Isaiah 43:18, God reminds us to not think about the past. He is encouraging us to move forward and accomplish the things He wants us to do, not the things that you want to do. It's the things that He has for your life, the that He's written in your story that you don't even know what you're going to do. And he's literally got you. He's got you with everything. Why do you think it's difficult for our minds to let whatever happened in our previous lives go? Why is it so hard to let our past go?
I think not even just for myself, but with anyone, it's difficult to erase those memories of the past and just put a stopper to it and forget about it. Um, but I tell myself daily, and I feel like this could help all of you. Um, your past doesn't define you. Um, you have the choice of writing a future for yourself and creating a future for yourself, and it's what you do moving forward and moving on with your life from now until the future that kind of dictates how you're going to live your life. And you can choose to stay stuck in the past and kind of have all those reminders of the stuff that happened and stay stuck in the past, or you can create a better life for yourself, a better future for yourself, and say, this is what I am doing today for myself, or this is what I want to do today for myself. And I'm going to take these steps to get to where I want to be. It's all about your mindset.
So, I experienced one of the hardest situations I've ever gone through a few months ago, and it's been really hard for me to forgive myself and forgive the people that were in on that situation, and it kind of left me blindsided, and I didn't have a backup plan or anything. And now that a few months have passed, I find myself looking back and wonder what I did wrong and if there was anything I could do to kind of still have what I had back then or change what happened. But when I hear this verse, my whole mood shifts and I get a burst of, I'm ready for what's next because I 100% trust that the Lord has something for me. And I know that that wasn't what He had for me. And it was just a stepping stone to get me to the point where He wants me to be. So the verse from Isaiah 43:18 says, forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. How do you feel about that verse?
I think the first thing that comes to mind when I think of that verse is you need to essentially trust the process. It might not be quick or as fast as how you want it to go. Um, But God does have a plan for you, like Hannah had mentioned earlier, and it isn't necessarily linear to us on what that plan may be, but it is very clear to God on the plans that He has for you. And it's just, establishing trust with God and realizing that He will take care of us in due time. And it's just about being able to just lean on God during those troubling times to get you through um, those difficult times.
I'm gonna follow up question to that because that was really good. Have you had any past experiences that have turned you away from God and led you down a path that you never saw yourself going down?
Yeah, so I had a breakup a while ago that really made me angry at God. And I always told myself, like, this is my person, this is who I'm meant to be with. And when I broke up with him, I was very angry at God because I felt like God just didn't want me to be with that person, and I couldn't understand why. And I was very resentful towards him and very hateful towards him. And I kind of just spiraled. I was going out every night, drinking, hanging with the wrong group of people, um, ultimately not making good decisions for myself. And looking back at that, um, I don't regret that experience because it helped shape me into where I'm at today. And it helped me find my faith in realizing that God will get you through those hard times. It's just having patience with Him and understanding that He wants you to go through these hard times to shape you into the person that you're meant to be. And ultimately, for my situation, finding the love that's right for me.
That was beautiful. And then, how did you turn back to God and ask for His forgiveness? How would you kind of tell people how to ask for his forgiveness if they don't really know how to?
Yeah, so I feel like people would typically say something along the lines of, you just need to change your ways and God will see that. But I think there's more to it than that. I think sitting down and talking to God like He's your friend. You don't even have to get on your knees and pray, but just sitting down in a quiet space or room and having an honest conversation with God about your wrongdoings and just saying, hey, God, you know, today or the other day I did this and I'm very, just, I have some mixed feelings about what I did and I would like to ask for forgiveness from you and just be really honest and genuine with yourself. And I think God will have a sense of understanding that you are being serious about forgive having God forgive you, and it will just be okay. You'll feel that sense of accomplishment that you were able to have that honest conversation with God. And ultimately, I think that sense of accomplishment will help you to make better decisions for yourself moving forward so you don't have to ask for forgiveness from God for that situation again.
And when did you choose your faith, and how do you see yourself, how have you watched yourself grow in it?
Yeah, so I would say I chose my faith back in 2021 ultimately. Um, I kind of always had a strong sense of faith in my life, but it really wasn't until 2021 when I was hospitalized for depression that I really just ultimately wanted to change my ways and see what else was out there. And that what else was out there was that relationship with God. And I feel like that was like the missing piece, the puzzle piece in my life that I just needed to have God watch over me and take care of me. And I just ultimately felt called by the Holy Spirit to follow Him. And I just have seen a lot of growth within myself. And I feel like um, I have been in Bible study groups and I have friends that go to me about faith questions now. And I've led like youth group events to helping kids understand God. And I've just done all these amazing things. And I really think that that shows my growth as an individual. Um, and it kind of gives me a sense of belonging, feeling like I can partake in these events, in these groups, and help make a difference in someone else's life. And that is my goal ultimately each and every day. I strive to just make that positive impact on someone's life.
What advice would you give to someone who's trying to discover their faith right now?
So definitely, I want to bring up a situation that might actually pertain to helping you discover your faith. But I really just found that when I was struggling with my faith or just needed help finding my faith, that I could turn to someone that I knew that was really passionate about their faith and kind of use them as a person of guidance to help get to where I want to be. And that person for myself was my aunt. She actually was my sponsor when I got confirmed at my church. And she has helped me tremendously just be able to lead a fruitful, righteous way of living with my path with God. And I just encourage any one of you, if you know somebody that is very faithful and is following their relationship with God, to reach out to them. I know sometimes that can bring up feelings of embarrassment or maybe fearfulness, but just taking that leap for yourself and just saying, hey, I need to plunge into the water. I need to discover this. I need to reach out to this person will bring you a whole sense of just being able to um, really immerse yourself in his faith. Um, so yeah, that's what I would encourage you to do.
And y'all, mentorship is huge. It helps not to just have like your parents or your siblings or even your friends. It's important to have those other people who you can call at any point in time to check up on them, to ask for advice, to gain any knowledge that they have that you're currently struggling with, it's important to definitely have those people by your side. And we are not made to walk through life alone. We're meant to have friends, we're meant to have those people that are willing to do anything for us, and we would do the same thing back. Can you share a little about what your journey towards faith was like?
Like I mentioned earlier, I truly did not figure out my faith until about 2021. Um, so it was very difficult. I always felt like I strive to have a relationship with God, but just never really put in the effort to get to that point. But like I mentioned earlier, when I was hospitalized in 2021, I really had a wake up call for myself that if I continued the behaviors that I had, um, who's to say I might not be around anymore? I had very reckless behaviors and I kept turning away from God. And I feel like when I refocused myself and immersed myself in His Word, it really shaped my beliefs into following Him and really trusting that God is going to get me through those hard times. So it was a very difficult journey, but I'm happy to where I am at now. And I would not change any of those life experiences for the world.
What would you say to little Lindsay who was kind of building that relationship with God and going through like your breakup? And what would you say to her from where you are right now?
That's a difficult question. Looking back, I never had the easiest childhood. My mom was not in my life growing up for the majority of it. And I had my dad, and I love him so much, but he was a little bit hard on me growing up. And it kind of made me feel like I didn't really have anyone in my life when I was a little kid. And I would just tell myself, looking back, that you are capable of so much, Lindsie. And I'm so proud of you for the woman that you have become today, into getting through all of life's challenges and forming the relationships you've had, whether they worked out or they didn't, and forming those friendships and ultimately getting to the point where you're at now. And I would definitely make sure to give myself a hug, my younger self, and let her feel that love that she never got as a child.
And y'all, if you're feeling kind of how she was feeling when she was little, I highly recommend maybe write a letter to your younger self and just explain to her like how far you've come now. Because back then, like, you never saw like where you would be 10 years from where you were. And growing up, it's like you're in a good place now, and God never left you struggling. Maybe you felt like you were struggling, but He led you to the place you were meant to be, and He still has so much going for you. So I highly recommend you write a letter to yourself to say that it has been okay, and I got here, and I'm happy, and I'm doing great with God by my side. And as we're talking about growing into our faith, I would love to share a verse that kind of talks about where we would be if we didn't have faith in our lives. I believe that we need faith to build that strong relationship with the Lord. It's from Hebrews 11:6. It says, "And without faith it is impossible to please him, for he who comes to God must believe that he exists, and he is a rewarder of those who earnestly seek him." If someone you know is struggling to pray, how would you lead them in prayer?
If someone was struggling to pray, um, I would lead them in prayer by ultimately giving them that comfort and that sense of I've got you, by grabbing their hands and just ultimately letting them feel the love that I have for that individual. Um, and just saying um, to God, like, hey, this person that I'm with is really struggling with their faith and they're not sure how to pray. Um, I would just ask you for guidance, God, on getting them through this difficult time and giving them a sense of direction to where they want to be in their faith. And ultimately, I think when that light gets shed on that individual, that they will be able to say, hey, I do know how to pray. God is showing me that this is the way it should go. But I will also say this. Um, prayer is not something that you need to just get on your knees and cup your hands together. Like, I would just say it also is just a time where you can be driving in your car or um, in a quiet space or area and just say, "Hey, God, you know, I had a really difficult day or I had a really good day and I just wanted to talk to you about it and check in with you." Um, Almost having that friendship with God is really healthy because it just helps you ultimately build that relationship up with Him and realizing, like, God isn't my enemy. He is like a long lost friend. And I need to trust Him during these times to get me to where I want to be.
How would you kind of challenge yourself to, when you are so comfortable in praying, how would you challenge yourself to pray over people, like in person? And
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. I actually did this a couple months ago, but something that really helped me go, I guess, outside of the box per se, is creating a prayer jar. And I decorated the whole thing. It was made out of like an empty candle holder,
it's cute.
and I put popsicle sticks in it. And I basically wrote for every person that I knew was struggling or just going through something. I wrote their name on the popsicle stick and what they were going through, and I would spend about 5 minutes every night and just draw a popsicle stick out and pray over that individual. And though they may not know that I prayed for them, I truly think that God has some awareness of their situation because I prayed for them and will just help them out and guide them with whatever they're going through. Sometimes it helps to get a little bit creative with how you pray and almost make it fun for yourself. I think people tend to think that praying is like a chore and it's just something that you just have to do because God's going to be angry at you. That's not the case. Um, as long as you find ways to pray that are fun and positive, um, I feel like that will help get you in the groove of being able to pray continuously.
Beautiful, and I love that idea. I might have to use that. Did you kind of come up with that, or did you find it on Pinterest or something?
So, my friend Kylie, she runs a women's Bible study group that I help out with, and that was actually her idea. She made me the jar actually, and then
Oh,
I just added the popsicle sticks and the prayer requests that I did for these individuals, and I still use it to this day. And it was a couple months ago, but I'll pray over people and add new ones as I go, and it's just really beneficial to have that sense of accomplishment in knowing that I'm taking care of someone tonight.
awesome. Definitely get those creative, godly friendships because they're definitely super important. Is it possible for us to love God in the way He loves us? And how do we express that love to Him?
That's actually a really good question. Um, I don't think it's possible to love God in the way that He loves us, because God's love is very internal, it's very unconditional, and God just has this heart that He just could not do you any wrong. Sure, He puts us through difficult times, but God is just this amazing individual that um, really just always forgives and listens and never turns away from us. And I feel like even the most perfect person or somebody who everybody thinks is perfect um, does have those faults where they might turn away from someone or ignore someone or do someone wrong. But God is never going to do that. So I feel like God's love is just so immeasurable and there's no other love like it. Um, and it's just a beautiful thing to think about. It almost gets me a little emotional a little bit to know that someone really just loves us with his full heart and that there is a life after this, and just to imagine being with him after when we pass is just a beautiful thing.
So I came across three most common questions that people often ask in religion. So I wanted to kind of see your thoughts on them. The first one is, what happens after we die? How would you kind of explain that to someone who's asking that?
Yeah, so after we die, I feel like it is like a process of how the afterlife works. It's not something where I feel like immediately after you die, you go straight to heaven. Um, there, I do, and this is kind of a little bit contradictual to some people or controversial. Um, but I do believe in purgatory, and I do believe there is a judgment zone for whether you are going to go to heaven or go to HE double hockey sticks. Um,
I love that.
I feel, I just feel like not everybody will have that chance to go to heaven, but even the person that does the most wrong could still have that chance. It's just a matter of when they get to that purgatory area that they are able to talk to God and say that, I did X, Y, and Z, and I'm genuinely sorry for that, and I would like forgiveness from you. And ultimately, just leaving it up to God to decide that for that individual. Um, but I do believe you do have to go to purgatory before ultimately deciding whether you get to go to heaven or not.
Is there a true meaning to life? And what do you believe that meaning is?
That's a really good question. I feel like there could be so many answers to that. Um, I don't really feel like there is a true meaning to the word life. Um, I feel like, if anything, like leading a life full of happiness is going to get you to ultimately achieve the goals and ambitions that you have for yourself. Um, but again, that's your choice in deciding how you want to carry out the decisions that you make in your life. But ultimately, leading a fulfilling life for yourself is going to get you very far and ultimately getting you that relationship that you so desire with God.
And the last question is, how did the world come to be?
Again, that is a very broad question. Um, but I will say this. I think it all began with Adam and Eve when God made Adam and Eve and he put them on earth. And even though Adam and Eve went against, or let's backtrack a little bit, even though Adam and Eve sinned in our eyes today, I believe they actually didn't sin because they procreated. They created life for this world and they ultimately created all of us. So I feel like it kind of all started with Adam and Eve, but um, to say that they sinned or they did, excuse me, they did wrong, I would beg to disagree with that because we are human, we have desires, we have needs, but ultimately that was God's plan for them, and that's ultimately my belief on that.
So, to get to know yourself and to build more of a relationship with the Lord and Jesus and understand how He created you, continue asking yourself the following questions. So, the first one is, who am I? The second is, where did I come from? And the third is, where am I going? A lot of us kind of struggle with the fact that we don't know where we're going. We're struggling to find ourselves, and don't, a lot of us don't really know where we came from.
So I get what you're saying. I think it's just with those questions having a self reflection of yourself and thinking about, where you were at before, where you're at now, and where you want to be, and ultimately sitting down and internalizing everything and having a self reflection of all those questions can really help decide how you want to live your future and if you want to stray away from God or grow closer to Him. I think it's really important that everyone asks themselves those questions because ultimately, I think it'll just help you have an understanding of where you're at in your faith and ultimately what actions you, excuse me, what actions you want to take moving forward.
And then, after you get done asking yourself those questions and have solid answers for each of them, ask yourself, or turn to God and ask him those questions and kind of write down in a journal, say, how did God answer you? How did he answer your prayers? And just kind of reflect on that and use that to build that relationship with him and talk to him. And here are some goals you should carry as you walk through your journey with Christ and God. The first one is, what do you want to experience along this walk with Christ? The second is, how do you want to grow within yourself, with the Lord, and within your community? And the third one, what do you want to contribute to yourself, to other people around you, and to God along the way? As we wrap up, I just want to say this verse over you and everyone listening. It's from Psalm 51:10 through 11. It says, create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me from your presence or take your Holy Spirit from me. What I got from this verse is we need to get away from the issues we face. Every process does not just take things away. Replace everything with something better for you. And I promise to everyone listening right now, and to those who aren't listening, there is something out there for you. Whether it's finding the right relationships, getting that perfect job you've been praying for, finally feeling accepted in a church community or any community that you involve yourself in, meeting the right partner, figuring out where you're supposed to live, or anything else that's been heavy on your heart, whatever it is, God has everything you're worried about under control. He has the right things for you and will give them to you when his story aligns. Until then, we have to show him that we are living out our full potential and spreading the word to everyone we see. His vision for us is so beautiful. I am so ready to see what doors he's going to open for us down the road. And I am grateful for what he has given me right now. What has God given you that you're extremely grateful for?
I think God has given me a second chance at life. Like I mentioned earlier, I really did struggle with my battle with depression, and it's not something I know will go away, and I've accepted that. Um, but I am grateful that God gave me that second chance of living and living for myself, and ultimately um, getting me to where I am now. I'm forever grateful for Him for that.
And how have you thanked him for giving you those things?
By following His word.
In prayer. Prayer is powerful. How are you going to repent the things you did in your past and move forward with his grace?
Yeah, so like I kind of stated earlier, I do have those honest conversations with God and talk to Him about my wrongdoings and what steps I'm going to take moving forward to correct those decisions that I've made. But I think also, too, it's just having that mindset of realizing, hey, I think I did something wrong. Here's what I'm going to do to change that. And ultimately taking that step for yourself to change your behavior and getting to that end goal of having that strong, secure relationship with the Lord.
Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I'm so happy you're officially part of Faithfully Free, Truthfully Me. And as you've noticed, I just want to give a shout out to Sozo Coffee House because this brings me back to my childhood. I literally came here when I was in college and I studied here. They have the cutest study rooms, which we're here right now, and I wanted this Merry Christmas sign because it's so cute. We got coffee from here. I'm just in my happy place right now. Um, and just closing out, I just wanted to end this episode in prayer because I believe this episode was so powerful and God is in this room. I feel him in here. So will you pray with me?
Yes, I would be honored.
Yay. So I actually read this psalm. It's Psalm 91 in Sadie Robertson's The Next Step book, and I just felt so intrigued by it, and I wanted to kind of pray it over y'all as we as we start to get into the holiday season, and a lot of us maybe don't feel safe, or maybe like bad weather is coming, or just the state of what our country is in right now, what our world's in. And I just want to pray safety over all of you with Psalm 91. Are you ready? All right. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely he will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. If you make the Most High your dwelling, even the Lord, who is my refuge, then no harm will befall you. No disaster will come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread upon the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent. Because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. Thank y'all so much for tuning into this episode. I truly believe how that it was so powerful and meaningful, and I am so grateful that you were here with me and left your house and met me at Sozo Coffee House. I am just so happy. How do you feel after doing that episode?
I feel renewed, refreshed, and feeling like I have a sense of purpose. And I'm just going to continue doing all the groups and activities that I'm doing and hopefully just making a difference in someone's life every day.
There's a lot more coming to the podcasts in the new year, and I am so excited for what y'all are going to experience and how this podcast is going to grow in the new year. There's going to be a lot more guests. Maybe you'll see Lindsie again on the podcast because she did amazing. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I will not see you guys before the new year, so this is it. So happy new year, and I will see you all in 2025. I love you all, faithfully free, truthfully me family. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Faithfully Free, Truthfully Me. I hope this week really encouraged you to live for yourself and to stay truthfully you, even on those hard days. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media to listen to upcoming episodes that you don't want to miss. We'll see you next week.